Numbers don't lie. That was my father's mantra, drilled into me during countless evenings at our kitchen table as he guided me through my math homework. People can dress up the truth with pretty words, he'd say, but numbers, they always tell the real story. I never imagined how vital that lesson would become when I married into the Wellington family and their billion-dollar empire. My name is Julia Chin, and I was the chief financial officer of Wellington Industries, until yesterday's board meeting. The story of how I uncovered one of the largest corporate frauds in recent history began 3 years ago when I joined the company. At the time, I had an MBA from Stanford and a solid career at one of the Big Four accounting firms. Then I met Michael Wellington at a charity gala. He wasn't like the rest of his family, genuine, kind, more interested in environmental conservation than corporate politics. We fell in love, married within a year, and that's when his father, CEO Richard Wellington, made an unexpected offer over dinner at their Greenwich mansion. "We need fresh perspectives in the company," he'd said, smiling across the candlelit table. "How would you like to be our new CFO?" Looking back, I should have seen the trap, but at 32, I was ambitious and naive enough to believe merit mattered more than family ties. The warning signs appeared immediately. In my first week, I requested full access to the company's financial records. James Wellington, Richard's brother and the COO, just laughed. "Don't worry your pretty head over the complex stuff," he said, patting my shoulder in that condescending way men like him do. "Focus on the standard reports, we handle the special accounts." But I did worry, and I did investigate. On the surface, Wellington Industries was thriving, steady growth, clean audits, strong profits, but something felt off. Late at night, when the office was empty, I combed through the numbers. Small inconsistencies in international shipping manifests, inventory figures that didn't quite match between systems, wire transfers to offshore accounts, carefully structured to avoid detection thresholds. "You're overanalyzing," Michael told me when I brought it up at home. "Dad says you're too detail-oriented. It's not good for the family dynamic." The family dynamic, that was everything in the Wellington world. Sunday dinners at the mansion, charity galas, country club obligations. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, reigned over it all with a glass of Chardonnay in hand. "Darling," she'd say with a practiced smile, "you need to relax. Let the men handle the difficult decisions. That's how we've always done things." But I couldn't relax. The numbers didn't add up. Using my background in forensic accounting, I built a shadow database, tracking every suspicious transaction, every anomaly. I enlisted Tom Martinez, a trusted IT specialist, to help me create secure backups of my findings. "This is big," Tom whispered one night, eyes scanning the encrypted server logs. "They're running a parallel accounting system. The numbers we see, they're just for show." The real numbers, buried under layers of shell companies and doctored reports, were staggering. More than $50 million had been siphoned off in the past 5 years, funneled through offshore accounts controlled by Richard, James, and key board members. But the fraud wasn't just about money. They were falsifying safety reports for their medical equipment, cutting corners on quality control while pocketing the savings. People's lives were at risk. I documented everything, building an airtight case. The hardest part was deciding what to do with it. Michael, though not directly involved, was caught in the crossfire. "They're still my family," he said when I tried to explain. "Whatever you think you've found, there's got to be another side to it." Then came yesterday's board meeting. It was supposed to be routine, quarterly updates, financial reports, the usual, but Richard had other plans. "Before we proceed," he announced, his voice smooth as ever, "we need to address a pressing concern. Our CFO, while competent, lacks the vision and understanding needed for a company of our stature." James nodded solemnly. "She's too focused on minor details, questioning long-standing practices." That was when I knew. They weren't just going to fire me. They were going to bury me. "It's disrupting our operations." Richard's voice was measured, his expression full of false regret. "Therefore," he continued, "we'll be bringing in someone more experienced, someone who understands how things work in the real world." The board members, his old friends, murmured in approval, their self-satisfaction thick in the air. I sat there, absorbing their smug certainty. They thought I was just another naive outsider, someone who didn't grasp the intricate web of their financial manipulations. "Do you have anything to say?" Richard asked, waiting for me to beg, to argue, to plead for my position. Instead, I smiled, gathered my things, and stood. Just this, keep your morning calendar clear, you'll be having some unexpected visitors. James chuckled, shaking his head. Is that a threat? Listen to her, trying to play in the big leagues. Richard barely spared me a glance. Security will escort you out. And Julia, remember your NDA. We wouldn't want any unfortunate legal complications. I walked out without a word, their laughter trailing behind me. Back in my office, I sent one final email, the culmination of 3 years of meticulous investigation, to the SEC, FBI, and Department of Justice. Then, I wiped my hard drive, knowing the real evidence was securely backed up beyond their reach. That evening, Michael found me in our home office, still calmly working on my laptop. Dad called, he said carefully. What happened at the board meeting? I looked up at my husband, reading the conflict in his eyes. Your father made his choice 3 years ago, I said softly. Tomorrow, you'll have to live with it. His brow furrowed. What do you mean? I didn't answer, there was nothing more to say. In just a few hours, federal agents would have everything: transaction records, falsified safety reports, a full map of Wellington Industries' corruption. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. I arrived at headquarters at precisely 8:30 a.m. Dressed in my best suit. The security guards, not yet informed of my termination, greeted me as usual. I nodded, stepped into my office, and waited. At 9:15, right on schedule, hell broke loose. The FBI arrived first, dark suits, purposeful strides, badges flashing. The SEC investigators followed minutes later. I watched through my office window as they entered the lobby, moving with quiet authority toward the executive floor. Richard Wellington's outraged voice echoed down the corridor. This is absurd. Do you have any idea who I am? Yes, Mr. Wellington, Special Agent Sarah Martinez replied coolly. We know exactly who you are, and what you've been doing. From my doorway, I saw James Wellington make a break for the emergency stairs. 2 agents intercepted him without breaking stride. Behind him, his assistant was frantically feeding papers into a shredder. It wouldn't help. I had copies of everything. Richard turned, his face dark with fury as he spotted me. What have you done? I met his glare evenly. My job, I said simply. I'm the CFO, I follow the numbers. The next few hours unfolded in controlled chaos. Agents secured computers and locked down servers. Board members were separated for questioning. Files were seized. Tom Martinez, my IT specialist, arrived with the Federal Cybercrime Unit. The parallel accounting system is exactly where you said it would be, he confirmed. They can't erase anything now. Around noon, Michael appeared in my office doorway. His face was pale, his world crumbling. Did you know? He asked hoarsely. All this time? I exhaled, meeting his eyes. I knew something was wrong the first month. It took 3 years to prove it. I paused. Your father wasn't just stealing money, Michael. They falsified safety tests on medical equipment. People could have died. He sank into a chair, running a hand through his hair. The foundation, the hospital wing they funded. Money laundering, I confirmed. Dirty profits, cycled through offshore accounts, mixed with charity donations to look legitimate. His voice was barely above a whisper. Why didn't you tell me? I held his gaze. Would you have believed me over your father? The silence between us was answer enough. By evening, the story had broken. Wellington Industries executives arrested in $50 million fraud scheme. The headline blazed across every major news outlet. And I, for the first time in years, finally felt free. The company's stock was temporarily suspended from trading. Employees gathered in stunned clusters, watching their once prestigious company unravel in real time. The name Wellington, once a symbol of power and prestige, was now synonymous with scandal. I spent hours with federal prosecutors, walking them through the evidence, every illegal transaction, every falsified safety test, every offshore transfer. I had documented it all. The case was airtight. This is extraordinary work, Agent Martinez said, flipping through the files. 3 years of careful investigation, and they never suspected? I allowed myself a small smile. They saw what they expected to see, a naive daughter-in-law playing at business. Their prejudice was their weakness. The fallout was swift and brutal. Richard, James, and 6 board members were indicted on multiple federal charges. When trading resumed, Wellington Industries stock nosedived, Clients canceled contracts, fearing compromised medical equipment. But I had planned for this, too. 1 week after the arrests, I stood before the remaining board members and major shareholders with a plan. A full audit of all products, transparent safety testing, new quality control procedures. I had already lined up reputable manufacturers who could verify, and, if necessary, replace any compromised equipment. The company can survive this, I told them, but only with full transparency and a total culture shift. To my surprise, they listened. Perhaps seeing Richard and James led away in handcuffs had clarified their priorities. Michael struggled in the aftermath, his father's betrayal, his family's disgrace, his own blind trust. It was too much, too fast. We separated for a few months while he worked through it all. I should have trusted you, he admitted when he finally returned home. I should have seen what was happening. They were your family, I said softly. We see what we want to see in the people we love. The criminal trials dragged on for 18 months. Richard and James were sentenced to 15 years each. The board members who cooperated received lighter sentences. Eleanor Wellington fled to Europe, her social standing in ruins. Wellington Industries survived, transformed. The Reform Board appointed me CEO with one clear mandate: rebuild the company's integrity. We reinstated laid-off workers, implemented uncompromising quality standards, and slowly won back our clients' trust. The hardest part? Facing the families of patients who had unknowingly received compromised equipment. I insisted on meeting them personally, explaining everything, ensuring they knew we were making it right. Last month, I was invited to give a guest lecture at Stanford Business School. The topic? Corporate ethics and the courage to see. The students were particularly interested in how I had maintained my cover for 3 years while building the case. Numbers tell stories, I told them, remembering my father's words, but you have to be willing to listen, even when the story isn't what you want to hear. Michael and I rebuilt our relationship, slowly. He left the company to pursue his original passion for environmental conservation, founding a nonprofit. We realized that some distances, like separate careers, could actually strengthen a marriage. Yesterday, I received a letter from Richard Wellington. You destroyed everything we built, he wrote, our reputation, our legacy, our family name. I didn't reply. He still didn't understand that he had destroyed those things himself, long before I exposed the truth. My role was simply to ensure that, in the end, the numbers told their story. The Wellington mansion was sold to cover legal settlements. I heard Eleanor sometimes drives past it, mourning what she lost. The country club quietly revoked their membership. The charity galas now celebrate new names, new faces, new legacies. But in my office, now on the top floor, I keep one small reminder. A framed copy of my original hiring letter as CFO, signed by Richard Wellington himself. A reminder that sometimes, the gravest mistake people make is underestimating those they look down on. The company's new mission statement is etched into the lobby wall. Integrity and innovation, truth in numbers. Every morning, as I walk past it, I think about choices. The ones the Wellingtons made, and the ones I made in response. Tom Martinez now leads our tech division, ensuring transparency and security. The offshore accounts are closed, their contents restored to the company and its victims. The parallel accounting system exists only in evidence archives. And me? I still stay late sometimes, reviewing reports, scanning numbers. Old habits die hard. But now, I'm protecting something worth protecting. A company that saves lives, honestly. A company that values truth over appearances. Last week, a young analyst came to me with concerns about unusual transactions. I listened carefully, remembering another woman who once spotted irregularities. And I gave her the support I wish I had at the start. Because sometimes, the most important numbers aren't on balance sheets,